Welcome back to Drinking by My Shelf. My name is Emma, and it is time for round 3 of my uncharacteristically earnest Let's Talk About My Mental Health video series. This was never really intended to be a video series, but every time I've made a video where I've been more open talking about my experiences of mental health and therapy and medication and everything, I've always just got a really good response from people saying that it's helped them. And so every time I'm kind of going through something new in my life, I sort of get inspired to make one again. And it is now Mental Health Awareness Month. So this video is being sponsored by BetterHelp in honour of Mental Health Awareness Month. I will get into talking about BetterHelp in more detail in a minute because a lot of you submitted questions talking about therapy, and so I will tell you all about that. But Mental Health Awareness Month, so May is a month that is devoted to reducing the stigma around talking about your mental health. The theme for this year is Together for Mental Health, so we're really encouraged to all share our stories to help other people who are struggling. If that's something that you feel able to do, open up and talk to someone. And so I thought I would do exactly that. I have been getting quite a few questions from you all. Obviously, my life has changed a little bit. You've been able to pick up on that, and I haven't really wanted to talk about it, but it seems like the right time now to open up a little bit. I don't want to dive into a ton of personal details about my life. I know in the past I've been very open about my life on this channel, and I'm sure that time will come again. At the moment, I just feel like there's some things that I'm not ready to talk about at the moment. But let's see how this video goes. I'm going to try and be brave and try and answer as many of your questions as possible. So I posted on Instagram and asked you all to send in your questions. So let's go in. I've had a quick scan through these, and first of all, just to say thank you, because a lot of the questions were just you asking if I was okay, asking how I was doing, and those kinds of questions come through with so much care. They make me feel really supported. So thank you so much for that. And in answer, I'm doing fine. I'm doing great, in fact. I have had a lot of change in my life. It has been very, very difficult, but things are really positive, and I just think I'm in a really good place. Like, my life situation is really good despite all of the hard bits. And I have been having a year of therapy now. I have come out the other side. I'm off my medication, and I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. I can't remember if I had any questions specifically about medication, so if not, I will remember to come back to it. But yeah, I feel like I'm in such a different place from where I was this time a year ago when I was just struggling so much more. So thank you so much for checking in to see if I am okay, and the answer is yes, I am. The first question that came through was, how is Hippo? So I'm glad people are looking out for Hippo. She is doing great, I think. So I don't live with her anymore. So I don't know what order to start telling you things in. There have been so many questions about why I moved house, where is RG? He's not here anymore. Don't cry. RG and I aren't together anymore. That is obvious. So he is living in the same house where we used to live together, and Hippo is staying with him because we've got a garden there. It's less unsettling for her not having to move house. I get her once a week. So I have her at least one day and one night a week, and then we kind of just take turns really with weekends. I love having her. It's absolutely the best thing. She's the joy of my life, but this isn't the best. I live in a flat without a garden, so it's not the best place for her. I also go into the office much more regularly than RG does, so it's just harder for her to be here that much. And we're just trying to do what's right for her. But I do, whenever I go down to my parents' house in Isle of Wight, I take her, and she's so happy there. I think she's doing really well. You may know, depending on how long you've been watching, that Hippo has had some anxiety problems of her own. We've been really trying to make sure she's okay, and I think that she does seem to be doing better. I think it has been stressful for her. Dogs don't really like change, so when I was moving, all of the packing and stuff was really stressing her out, and she's always a little bit weird. When RG and I do the changeover with her, she gets a bit confused. She doesn't like that we aren't going to the same place. But other than that, I think she's a good, brave little dog. What do you do to try to stay positive? Mostly I am feeling really positive. I mean, I have a lot of really wonderful things going on in my life at the moment. So I do feel really positive, and I'm really lucky that despite the hard bits I've been going through, I've had amazing support the whole way. I've had amazing positive changes in my life alongside the negative ones. So I haven't had to fight too hard to stay positive. I've had a lot of positive things to focus on. But that's not to say there aren't days where I just wake up and cry all day. Sometimes the harder bits, the sadder bits become the most overpowering. There are some days, I don't know, if it's because I've got PMS or if I'm hungover, it gets worse, or just, I don't know, a random day. Sometimes it happens where it just feels like all I can do is dwell on the past and dwell on the what ifs. And I kind of described it to my therapist the other day as it's like poking a bruise. It's like my brain is deliberately poking at the thoughts that it knows will upset me. And on those days, what do I do to stay positive? It's really hard. I don't have a magic solution, because when your brain is being mean to you, your brain is really powerful. If it's you against your brain, that's a really tough battle to fight. I think all I can do is just try to keep talking to myself in a gentle way, reminding myself that this is just my brain being mean to myself and just poking that bruise, and not to then get angry at my brain and turn it into a whole like internal fight, because that's not going to help, but just almost kind of laugh it off. Be like, oh, it's doing that silly thing again. Deep breaths. This will pass. Is it hard living on your own? There are pros and cons. It's a lot better than I thought it was going to be. So I would have thought that living on my own would be my worst nightmare, because I hate being on my own. Or I always used to say that I hate being on my own. Actually, I've been really enjoying it, and that's partly because I'm not spending very much time by myself. So I spend a lot of time with other people. I go out and do things after work with people. I live 8 minutes walk from my sister, so that's fantastic. So I'm not feeling isolated. I think this could be a lot worse for me if I felt more kind of stuck by myself in the house and was repeatedly coming home in the evenings and just being by myself, or if I was still working from home, if we were still in lockdown, this would not be a good situation for me personally. As it is, I'm not finding it hard living by myself, other than there have been a few nights where I'm home alone and I suddenly feel very, very lonely, and that does happen, and that then I just sit there and cry, and then I watch Netflix and I eat chocolate, and then it's okay again. So it's survivable, and actually there's a lot of pros. I really like decorating the space to be completely mine. I like that I've got all of this room for my books. That is fantastic. I like that I'm completely in charge of what I want to eat at night. I like that if I want to go out spontaneously, there's no one that I have to check with. The pros of not having a dog is it gives you more freedom, and that's, it's a two-sided coin, double-edged sword, whatever phrase it was I'm thinking of, because I desperately miss having Hippo. But those elements of living alone are great. I feel really independent, more than I ever have. How do you talk to friends about your mental health struggles? So I am really, really lucky that I have a lot of friends. Well, I was going to say I'm really lucky that I have a lot of friends with their own mental health struggles. That's a strange way of phrasing it. I don't wish hardship on anybody. I'm not glad that other people are going through sad things, but I'm lucky that I just happen to have a very understanding group of friends. A lot of us have had depression. A lot of us have been on and off medication, in and out of therapy, and while that's been really hard, obviously I've hated seeing my friends go through hard times, it means that we all now can be so empathetic to each other. So I'm lucky in that I find it, for that reason, really easy to talk to my friends. I know that not everyone has the same setup. If you are in a friendship group where people aren't talking about mental health, then I imagine it can feel really, really scary to be the first one to say, hey, my brain's doing something mean and I don't understand it and I don't feel in control of my emotions anymore, and just hope that people understand you. I think that must be terrifying. And I would just say your true friends will understand you and care about you, and I can't guarantee what's going to happen, but I'm guessing you will feel a lot better after having opened up, because being true to yourself is just always a better situation to be in. And also, you'll find that people can understand and empathize in different ways. You don't have to have gone through a massive mental health struggle to have had a bad day and to understand how having a really bad day can be really debilitating, even if it hasn't for you turned into a wider problem with, an ongoing problem with your mental health. Everyone has had a day where they just don't feel able to show up for themselves that day, and so you will find that your friends can understand. What is your one go-to when you're feeling a bit meh other than reading? I think getting outside, and the problem there is it's really hard to do, because when I'm feeling meh, I don't want to get outside, I don't even want to get out of bed, but anytime I do get myself up, get myself even vaguely dressed, I might still be wearing pajamas but with a jumper over the top and some form of shoes, like that counts, and get outside, get the sun in your face, the wind in your hair, I 99 times out of 100 feel better. This one's kind of similar. What key things do you do for self-care when you know you're feeling low again? So if I'm already in a low cycle, then my first thing to do is talking to myself and almost, I literally like hugging myself. I think I've talked about that before, because when you're at the lowest of the low, any of the advice like getting outside or even having a bath or lighting candles can just seem too impossible to do. When you're at rock bottom, you just can't really move. And so my first step in the routine is to reassure myself that it is okay, that if my body and my brain is just saying all I can do right now is curl up in a ball on the floor and just lie here, then okay, that's what we're going to do. And I find that that period then passes more quickly, because if I'm berating myself for it, it just gets worse and worse and worse, and I'll be on the floor all day. Whereas if I give myself an hour of, okay, this is what we're doing right now, we're lying on the floor, this is restful, this is quite nice and peaceful, then I will start to feel better, and then I can get up onto those next steps in the routine, like getting outside, like going to the gym, having a bath, cooking something really nice for myself. In a kind of bigger sense, and this is where I'm going to start talking about therapy, if I notice myself starting to go into a low pattern again, then I think from now on I'm always going to make it part of my routine to start investigating options for therapy early. Because again, once it gets really bad, it feels really hard to get a therapist. So if I feel myself getting low, that's what I'm going to do. So I'll tell you a little bit about my experience with therapy. I've had therapy on and off for 12 years. I have been with my existing therapist, Rosie, for almost exactly a year, and we are coming to an end. So we decided that on the 1 year anniversary, we are going to stop having our sessions because I've been doing really well. And so that is such a testament to the therapy process, that actually having gone from my kind of lowest, a year of therapy has brought me to a place where I do feel confident and able to go out there and face life by myself. That's not to say I won't go back to therapy, even if it's just for check-ins in the future, but this is the longest I've ever been with one therapist, and it's been such an amazing experience. And we started once a week and then went down to twice a week. Sorry, I said twice a week, I meant the opposite. Once every 2 weeks, and it's now once every 2 weeks on the phone. So it's sort of, I'm detaching myself a little bit, like baby steps away, to being able to do this by myself. And I think that's such a testament to therapy, because that felt impossible a year ago. A year ago, I just didn't. I don't even really like talking about what it's like being at rock bottom. I'm sure a lot of you have felt it. You just don't feel able. The getting up and opening your eyes and facing a day can just feel too impossibly hard. And now through therapy and medication, I was on antidepressants for a while, and I've come off them now with the help of my therapist and my doctor. Those coping mechanisms got me to this place, and so I'm like incredibly grateful that they saved me, really. So I want to talk about BetterHelp. I've been really lucky that I've been able to afford private therapy in different times of my life, or have got access to therapy through my work, medical insurance. This is not something that is possible for everyone. And so what's so incredible about BetterHelp is that one of their biggest goals is to make therapy more accessible. I will put a link in my description box below. Please do click that to go through and start exploring getting set up with BetterHelp, which is Better, H-E-L-P, to get the help that you need. It is a much more affordable form of therapy. It is a much more flexible form of therapy. You can choose weekly sessions, you can choose sporadic sessions to fit your schedule. They have a network of over 20,000 licensed therapists, and according to how you fill out your profile, you will be matched with someone who is best suited to you. If for whatever reason you don't find that person a good match, it is free and easy to change. Even the options for how you conduct the therapy are more accessible, so it is all done online, but you can choose between video, between phone calls. You don't have to have your video on if that's something that puts you off, that puts a barrier up for you. Using BetterHelp, you can find a way to make therapy accessible for you in your life. You can also send messages, unlimited messages, to your therapist at a time that suits you and receive thoughtful and timely responses. So it's a really new and different way of doing therapy. So as a huge advocate of therapy, I urge you this Mental Health Month, if you or someone that you know needs extra help, then refer them to BetterHelp. Use my link below. You get 10% off your first month with BetterHelp, Better, H-E-L-P. And thank you so much to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. I really appreciate everything that they do, and I think that getting access to more people to get therapy is just such a fantastic mission. Okay, going back to some questions. What are you most looking forward to this year? That's a great question, and actually made me really happy because I've got lots of lovely things to look forward to. I've got some amazing holidays booked for the summer, which is really exciting, with my family, all of those. So I can't wait to spend some really good quality time with my family. I'm looking forward to my birthday, which is next month. I'm looking forward to Eurovision, which by the time this video goes live will be tomorrow. And I'm looking forward to getting more and more into my new routine with my new life and just kind of feeling increasingly settled every day. I'm looking forward to that. Oh, this is a big question. How do you cope with diet culture? I don't. My relationship to food and my body is flawed, as is everyone's pretty much. I almost know nobody who is actually happy with their relationship with food and with their body, which is so sad because our bodies are the things that we live in and food keeps us alive. So that should be simple and straightforward, but somehow it has got so complicated by humans, and that's just sucks, doesn't it? The question was, how do you cope? I think I was supposed to give some useful advice. I don't have any useful advice. Just block your ears and don't listen to any of it. None of it is real. It doesn't matter. You try telling yourself that, honestly, that's hard. This is a lovely question. What's something that you've done recently that you're proud of? So I'll say two things. I am proud of getting a promotion recently. That was really exciting. And I am proud of this big change that I've made, and surviving this big change that I've made. It was something, again, I just don't want to go too much into the details of what happened, but this is something that, getting to where I am is something that I thought I would never do, thought I'd never be able to do, and would never survive doing it. I did. I'm here. I'm surviving. So I'm proud of that. What books do you gravitate to on bad mental health days? I don't. On really bad mental health days, I just don't read. I just stare at my phone. And it's not helpful because actually if I do make myself pick up a book, I remember that books are great, but I don't gravitate towards books at all when I'm feeling really low. I think they feel too high effort. I kind of want to just do something I can do with my eyes closed, but not listen to an audiobook. I want my eyes closed and my brain closed. Do you miss having Hippo around all the time? Yes. Yes, I do. She's such a heavenly creature. I already mentioned earlier that there's, I'm focusing on the positives, the freedom that comes with not having a dog around all the time, but she was, don't cry, Emma. She was my little best friend. I loved having her around all the time. I loved that. Right now she would have already sensed that I was about to start crying and she would have run over and jumped on me, and I loved that about her. Dogs are magical creatures that keep us happy, and so yes, I really, really miss not having her around all the time. Okay, how do you know what goals to set for yourself? That is a hard question. I don't know, because I think I get it wrong a lot of the time. I would advise, don't go too big. It's very easy to set a ton of goals for yourself all at once. So that's something actually that I talked to my therapist about a little while ago. She was actually quite strict with me because I had all these goals I wanted to achieve and I kept listing them all. And she was like, you know what? I am banning you from working on any of these until you've done one small one. So we wrote out a list of the things I wanted to do, the new routines I wanted to adopt. And she said, focus on the first one, just this one little change that you want to do. And once you've done that and got that into your routine, into your system, it feels easy and manageable, then we can look at the next one. And that made everything a lot easier than wanting to have done everything at once and then instantly you failed because you can't change everything at once. And so you're setting yourself off on such a bad start because you instantly are behind. Whereas if you're just doing like one tiny little change, then almost instantly you're like, cool, I've done it, I'm doing it. You practice it a few times, and after a few weeks of being like, yes, I'm on top of the world because I did this, then you say, okay, I'm ready for the next challenge. And the next challenge is also a tiny little thing that you've pretty much instantly, you've done it, it's in. That's how you set goals. When you struggle getting out of bed, what are your go-to activities to gain a sense of achievement? When I really struggle to get out of bed, what I do often is I lie in bed and I open up a note on my phone and then I write a list of all the things that I want to do. Depending on your personality, this could go two ways. For me, it helps because when I'm keeping them all in my head, it feels like there's a million, and it feels like I am just falling behind and failing, just like I was saying with the goal setting. Whereas when I write them down, suddenly they look not too bad. They look manageable. Say it's, I want to make myself some lunch and I want to hoover the floor. suddenly it's written down as 2 things. Whereas when I'd been lying in bed panicking, it had felt like this completely unmanageable task list. So I will lie in bed and I write myself my list, and then I usually lie in bed for a bit longer and I look at it and I kind of imagine doing each thing, and it does still take a little while, but then I say, okay, I'm just going to get up and do one of them. And I always kind of say to myself, I'm just going to get up and do one of them and then go back to bed. But actually, once I'm up and I've done one, I've ticked it off the list, I'm usually then like, okay, this was cool. I can do another one. Are you still married? Yes. Legally, yes. Do you feel like your mental health gets worse with big life changes, or is it consistent? Yeah, I mean, it definitely gets worse with big life changes, I think. The thing that had the biggest impact in my life so far on my mental health was the pandemic, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. So going from living a normal life, felt like a normal life, to being so isolated, and just I was incredibly privileged throughout the whole pandemic, so I know my experience does not relate to a lot of other people who had more hardships, but just for me personally, my life changed in a huge way and my mental health massively suffered because of that. This most recent big life change that I've been through, which in theory is the biggest life change ever, my mental health has been rocky, but it has been fine. And that's probably a testament to the fact that I have had a year of therapy at this point and had my treatment with medication. So possibly that is why this big life change hasn't set off my mental health as badly. But also it's possible that it's just that the pandemic was a completely unprecedented global event and we're all traumatized and never going to be okay again. How do you find living far from your parents? I'm really lucky because I still get to see my parents a lot. So my parents don't live too far away. It takes me about 3.5 hours, 4 hours to get to them. And I do that at least once every 2 months, I would say, and then more regularly than that. My mum comes up to London a fair amount because her sisters live here. My dad comes up to London less frequently, but he does. And then, my sister is right around the corner. So I feel quite lucky that my parents don't actually feel too far away. And we talk on the phone a lot. I'm very close with my parents. What is one thing you look forward to every day? Lunchtime. Also Wordle. I look forward to doing Wordle every day. Is anyone else still doing Wordle? I feel like that trend died and I'm still here. What are you looking forward to most about this new chapter in your life? That's a hard question to answer. It's a good question. It's a hard question to answer because in order to go into that in any depth, I would need to dive more into the specifics of what has happened, which I don't want to do. I think in the most general sense, I'm most looking forward to learning more about who I am. Being in a relationship for a long time, anyone who has been in that situation might know that you do, especially because I was together with Archie when I was 19, so I was a child basically, you fall into these dynamics, you fall into the roles that you play, and it's easy to kind of lose sight of who you could be if you were more independent. I was very codependent, I think. I was very looked after by Archie, and so while it's hard not having that, I am excited about this new chapter of learning to be a bit stronger and freer and learn the things that I actually am able to do that I didn't think I was able to do. This is a good question. Do duvet days help you feel better, or do you find they can compound a depressive episode? And I think the answer to that is kind of what I said earlier about it just depends how you react to them. If you have a duvet day and you beat yourself up about it, you're going to get more and more depressed. Whereas if you have a duvet day and you allow yourself to think, this is a treat, this is what I need right now, then they can absolutely help you feel better. If I spend too much time in a row in bed, I do start to feel worse. But I find it's a cycle because actually if I have a duvet day and I remind myself how much I'm enjoying it and that it's what I need right now and that I don't have to feel any guilt about it, the depressive episode finishes faster, and then so I don't end up doing it for too long. How long does it take for you to see a difference on meds? I'm just starting them. Okay, so if I remember correctly, so I've started medication twice. The first time around I started it, I had about 10 days of, I kind of almost instantly felt something, but it wasn't an improvement. But I didn't get the really, really bad side effects. Some people when they start medication can plummet mental health wise. I didn't get that at all. I became really, really spaced out for about 10 days. I was very tired, didn't really know what was going on, really struggling to concentrate. My sister was laughing at me quite a lot for never knowing what's going on. And then suddenly on day 11, I woke up and kept saying, I'm so happy. So yeah, about 11 days. And then the second time round, because I came off them and then started again, I think it was less dramatic. So I can't really give you an exact number. because it just felt like a much slower, steady climb into feeling better. I want to know all of your personal business, what's going on. No, thank you. There's a two-part question here. What made you take the step to be alone? Was it as difficult as you thought? So there's two parts to that question, and one of them I'm not going to answer. So what made me take the step to be alone, I'm not ready to answer at the moment. But I thought the second part of that question is really interesting, so that's why I read it out rather than skipping over it. Was it as difficult as you thought? And the answer is both yes and no. In a lot of ways, a lot of the things that I thought were going to be so impossible for me about it, they were okay. They were survivable. So in those ways, it wasn't as difficult as I thought. It was heartbreaking. It was just as heartbreaking as I thought, but not as difficult, not as impossible as I thought, because I thought that I literally wouldn't be able to do it. However, the kind of aftermath, the ongoing process afterwards has been more difficult than I thought. So it's, swings and roundabouts. The grieving process lasts for a long time, and people kind of forget that. People kind of assume that you're fine now, because it's been 5 months since RG and I split up. And I think people just sort of think, cool, you're doing well. But actually, at this point, at the 5-month mark, the grief has got worse for me. So the things that keep hitting you, the tiny little triggers that I get day to day that hit me and remind me of things that I wasn't ready to be reminded of, all of that has been more difficult. I thought that it would be like an initial massive thing I had to do and then I would be okay. And actually it's kind of the other way around. Someone's asked, how's RG? Which is really nice. I don't want to talk on Archie's behalf. That feels like an invasion of his privacy, I guess, now. But he's doing well. We're on really, really good terms. We see each other a lot. So I can just assure you that he is doing well, and that we are communicating about all of the harder bits. And there seems to be a lot of happy bits in his life at the moment. This is a question that's not about mental health. Let's finish on that one. What's your favourite book of the year? Or books, if picking one is too hard. Oh, it's so hard. I've read so many really good ones. My favourite books of the year so far, I've got two, would be Great Circle by Maggie Shipstead and The Paper Palace by Miranda Cowley-Heller. Is that her name? That is her name. Both of those two books were fantastic. Both of them were 5-star reads. I think Great Circle just slips into number one, but it's a really close call. I have already talked about both of them in Balancing the Book, so I won't go into a full review here. But yeah, those are my two favourite books so far. So thank you so much to all of you for sending in really nice questions and how much support and love I got in those messages that I didn't read out. Just thank you. And also thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. Do click the link in my description box below to get 10% off your first month using BetterHelp. That is Better, H-E-L-P. I really can't rave enough about therapy and how much it's changed my life. By the time this video goes up, I will have actually had my final session with my therapist, Rosie. And I am hoping that I will be feeling really strong and independent and ready to take on the world and all the challenges ahead. And that is absolutely thank you to the experience with therapy. It's given me so many tools to use. Thank you all for bearing with me. Sorry that I didn't answer all of the questions fully. I hope you understand that there's some things I'm not ready to talk about, might not ever talk about on this channel. I've always been very, very open in the past, and maybe I need to hold some things back a little bit in future. I don't know. We'll see. Or maybe one time I'll just get drunk and tell you everything. So hang in there. Don't forget to subscribe in case that happens. And I will see you soon.